Okay. Okay, namaskar viewers. In my today's lecture, I am going to take up what we call modernism. It is called modernism, जिसको हिंदी में आधुनिकतावाद कहा गया है. मॉडर्निज्म और इन हिंदी वी कॉल इट आधुनिकतावाद. सी मॉडर्न, देयर आर सर्टेन वर्ड जिसको कि आपको समझना चाहिए. वन इज कॉल्ड मॉडर्न, देन यू हैव मॉडर्निटी. So modern is man, every man is modern. Everyone is modern in his or her own sense, according to time, right? And basically, you see that Renaissance period is basically called the modern period because of scientific attitude, because of certain factors like humanism, the value of individualism, the value of human dignity. But you see, after Queen Victoria's death, she died in 1901. This was the date she died. And after that, we have Edwardian period. And then we have Georgian period. Georgian period, you see, Georgian period. And these two periods basically they constitute the beginning of modernism. So in fact हुआ क्या modernism में? You see, certain features emerged at that time. Certain radical change, certain radical change हुआ. एक तो जैसा कि सब जानते हैं कि पूरा खास तौर से जब आप 1990 जो मैं कल पढ़ा रहा था, 1990s डिकेडेंस जिस पीरियड को मैंने पढ़ाया था, आर प्री-रेफ्लाइट, इन सब पीरियड के बाद एक जो बात आती है, देयर वाज रेडिकल चेंज बोथ इन टर्म्स ऑफ फॉर्म एंड कंटेंट. फॉर्म एंड कंटेंट दोनों में एक रेडिकल चेंज आ गया. जैसा कि आप जानते हैं कि इन लोगों ने दे इनफैक्ट हैड रिवोल्यूशनरी आइडिया अगेंस्ट द विक्टोरियन मोरालिटी. Victorian morality means like Charles Dickens, George Eliot. You have read the writer of Vanity Fair Thackeray. They had a Victorian social order that is called Victorian social code, and this was the norm. उसके खिलाफ जो है कुछ राइटर्स ने लिखना चालू किया. राइटर एंड बेसिकली दैट वाज कि इमोरालिटी जैसी कोई चीजें नहीं है. राइट किसी लिटरेचर का यह एक पर्पज नहीं हो सकता दैट वी शुड इन फैक्ट वी शुड व्हाट शुड आई डू दैट वी शुड नॉट फिक्स अ लिटरेचर इन certain parameters in terms of certain morality. इसी के बाद आप देखेंगे कि जो 1990s के बाद एडवर्ड फर्स्ट का समय स्टार्ट होता है. एडवर्ड द सेकेंड, एडवर्ड द सेवेंथ। और ए शुरू एक्चुअली बेसिकली जब आप देखेंगे मॉडर्न पीरियड, जब आप बेसिकली मॉडर्न पीरियड देखेंगे तो जो मॉडर्न पीरियड देखेंगे तो इसका जो समय है ये पूरा आपका 1901 से लेकर के 1940 तक चलता है। दिस इज द टाइम 1901 से 1914। और 1901 से लेकर के बेसिकली इफ यू सी द 1914 तक यह जो समय रहा वह है एडवर्ड द सेवेंथ, नॉट सेकेंड, एडवर्ड द सेवेंथ का समय रहा। और बेसिकली इसी समय में वर्ल्ड वार हुआ था, इसी समय में वर्ल्ड वार फर्स्ट के पहले बोर वार, इसको भी ध्यान रखिएगा, बोर वार। और दिस बोर वार ने बहुत बड़ा प्रभाव डाला। देखिए मॉडर्निज्म ने बेसिकली यू शुड रीड फिक्शन, या फिक्शन पढ़ेंगे यू फाइंड सर्टेन राइटर्स एंड दिस इज कॉल्ड द एडवर्डियन पीरियड। देखिए वर्जीनिया वुल्फ ने 1910 में कहा, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, इन 1910 she saw a post impressionistic painting, इसके लिखने के बाद वर्जीनिया वुल्फ ने कहा ह्यूमन नेचर है चेंज, उसने बात की। दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। और बाद में वर्जीनिया वुल्फ कहती है लाइफ इज नॉट अ गिग लैम्प सीरीज ऑफ लाइफ इंसिडेंट, रादर इट इज अ ल्यूमिनियस हॉलो। इट मीन्स दैट देयर इज सर्टेन we don't know, there is no consciousness, there is no stability, there is no plot, there is no fixity। मॉडर्निज्म में यही बात उठती है कि एक कोई ऑर्डर नहीं रह गया। इनफैक्ट ऑर्डर वाज कोलैप्स्ड, व्हाट वी कॉल द टावर ऑफ बाबेल। इफ वी से, इफ आई यूज बिब्लिकल टर्म, यू कैन से द टावर ऑफ बाबेल, right? This Tower of Babel means that there is no stability। और इसीलिए जब आप देखेंगे एडवर्डियन पीरियड में, चाहे वो पोएट हो चाहे फिक्शन राइटर हो, देखिए जब आप हम नावल को देखते हैं तो नावल में वर्जीनिया वुल्फ तो बाद में आती है, इनके पहले हमारे पास कुछ राइटर आते हैं जिसमें है हेनरी जेम्स, जोसेफ कॉनरैड, एक हो गए आर्नल्ड वेनेट, एच.जी. वेल्स एंड जॉन गाल्सवर्दी। आर्नल्ड वेनेट, एच.जी. वेल्स एंड जॉन गाल्सवर्दी, एक आपके होते हैं। अब बाद में जब आप देखेंगे तो बाद में आते हैं स्ट्रीम ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस टेक्निक। एक टर्म आता है स्ट्रीम ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस टेक्निक, जिसके कि जेम्स जॉयस एंड वर्जीनिया वुल्फ। जेम्स जॉयस एंड वर्जीनिया वुल्फ, these are the writer of stream of consciousness technique। तो इन नावल आप देखेंगे तो हेनरी जेम्स, जोसेफ कॉनरैड, इन्होंने एक नई परंपरा चालू किया। और देखिए ये मैं थोड़ा सा अभी समझा दे रहा हूं आपको, कीप दिस इन माइंड। ऐसे अच्छा ऐसे लिखिएगा, आई एम श्योर दैट यू विल क्लियर मोस्ट ऑफ द एग्जामिनेशन, बी इट द एग्जामिनेशन ऑफ डिग्री कॉलेज, चाहे वो आपका एलटी रहा हो चाहे पीजी टीजीटी रहा हो। इस तरह सीखिएगा। हेनरी जेम्स ने एक एस्से लिखा था इन 1884, he has written an essay in 1884 and the title of the essay was Art of Fiction, the Art of Fiction। उसमें उन्होंने कहा कि जो विक्टोरियन नॉवेल थे, they are the large baggy master, they are the large baggy master. They are not whole. They don't have any symmetry. They don't have any order. They don't have any artistic feature. Like they are like sack of potato. वो कहते थे कि जो विक्टोरियन नॉवेल्स थे, they are like sack of potato. There is no enjoyment. There is no artistic feature. और उनका ऐसा मानना था कि प्लॉट एंड कैरेक्टर्स both are different in Victorian novel. There is no symmetry. There is no proper cohesion between plot and character. Right? कहानी और कैरेक्टर में कोई cohesion नहीं. And obviously you know that there is omnipresent narrator. There is omniscient narrator. एक जो विक्टोरियन नॉवेल में आप पाते हैं कि देयर इज ओमनीसिएंट नरेटर. Omniscient narrator. This is very important term. That omniscient narrator, and this narrator means that he knows everything. रीडर के लिए कुछ नहीं बचा है, सब कुछ एक्सप्लेन करते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, if you read Thomas Hardy's novel Tales of the D'Urberville, Thomas Hardy tells everything. That Tess is worthy for seduction. What is the reason of Tess's seduction? Right? If you read Tales of the D'Urberville, or if you read Charles Dickens' novel, you find that there is a rule of, they tell everything. They are like moral authority. They are highly judgmental. Right? They explain everything. That Tess is worthy for seduction. Tess deserves for this. She was very, something like this. And then the last line, the novel ends with the line that the president of Immortal has ended his sports with Tess. Ultimately, Tess is hanged. So that is you find in Victorian novel. So when you write an essay on modernism, you find it that modernism is completely new. Newness. For example, there is Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound has written an essay where he says that making it new. Making it new. This is what Ezra Pound says. Ezra Pound says that the modernism is nothing except making it new. We make everything in a new order. सब कुछ नया कर देना. That is modernism. एक मूवमेंट आया था. जैसे एक रेनेसा एक मूवमेंट है, नियो क्लासिकल एक मूवमेंट है, रोमांटिसिज्म एक मूवमेंट है. उसी तरह से मॉडर्निज्म यदि पढ़ेंगे तो दिस इज अ मूवमेंट. और मॉडर्निज्म बेसिकली जब आप इसको देखेंगे दैट स्टार्ट्स विथ 1900 to 1940. बट व्हेन यू रीड मॉडर्निज्म यू मस्ट कीप इन माइंड योर विक्टोरियन स्टडी. कि विक्टोरियन नावल को पहले पढ़िएगा कि विक्टोरियन नावल में क्या हुआ. तो जब हम नावल देखते हैं तो नावल में दो प्रकार के राइटर मिलते हैं. तो द आर्ट ऑफ फिक्शन. आर्ट ऑफ फिक्शन में इन्होंने कहा कि व्हाट इज कैरेक्टर बट द डिटर्मिनेशन ऑफ इंसिडेंट. ये बहुत फेमस लाइन है इनकी. 1884 में हेनरी जेम्स ने कहा कि व्हाट इज कैरेक्टर but the what is character but the determination of incident. What is character but the determination of incident. और उन्होंने कहा व्हाट इज इंसिडेंट बट द इलस्ट्रेशन ऑफ कैरेक्टर. व्हाट इज इंसिडेंट बट द illustration of now this is very famous line. He says that what is character but the determination of incident. कहा जो कैरेक्टर है, कैरेक्टर इज नथिंग but the determination of incident. Determination of incident means that incident and characters are complementary. There is no difference between character and incident. And then he also says that what is incident but the illustration of character. So incident, illustration, characters, both are, they are complementary to each other. You cannot separate from you cannot separate from one to another, right? This is the first thing. So एक artistic perception जो आया in the realm of novel, you find artistic perception. You find artistic perception, and this you find in the fiction like A Portrait of Lady, very interesting novel. A Portrait of Lady. It was published in 1881. The Ambassador. The Ambassador. The Wings of Dove. The Wings of Dove, etc. These are his fiction. So, and there is an international theme. Second thing that you find in his play, in his novel is what we call the international theme. The theme is international. Means the clash between United States and यूनाइटेड किंगडम, जो लंदन और यूएस के बीच में एक प्रकार का क्लैश होता है. नॉट द क्लैश इन टर्म्स ऑफ पावर बट क्लैश इन टर्म्स ऑफ कल्चर. सो यूनाइटेड स्टेट क्या है? इफ यू सी यूनाइटेड स्टेट इज अ न्यू, इट इज नोविस, it is modern, right? It is completely new. However, England is highly sophisticated. You see that. Then you have orthodox. यहाँ पे आते हैं मैडम मर्ल. इफ यू रीड हिज फिक्शन मैडम मर्ल, और न्यू जो नोविस हैं इजाबेल आर्चर. Read The Portrait of Lady, very fine novel, very fantastic novel, very good novel, The Portrait of Lady. You find the clash of two culture. That is point number first. Second, there is a stream of consciousness technique, and this is what Virginia Woolf says, that life is not a gig lamp of series. It is not a symmetry. How can you say that your life is the order of your life is symmetrical? No, not at all. There are a lot of complexities in our life. Our mind is not fixed, right? And that is what we call depth analysis. The basic subject, as T.S. Eliot says, that it is called depth analysis. It is called depth analysis. Inner wise, right? That modernism is basically, they talk about inner wise, not outer world. And that's why stream of consciousness technique. And this stream of consciousness technique, this term is derived from a book, very fantastic book written by William James. William James has written a book called The Principle of Psychology. William James has written a book called The Principle of Psychology, where he says, where he coined the term called stream of consciousness, technique, right? The principle of psychology, here he says that stream of consciousness technique. And that's why he says that modern reality is nothing except subjective ह्यूमन कॉन्शियसनेस। इन्होंने कहा कि जो मॉडर्न रियलिटी है ये कुछ नहीं है, ये केवल एक ही चीज है, दैट इज सब्जेक्टिव ह्यूमन कॉन्शियसनेस, which means that, and this is stream of consciousness technique is all about, that this types of technique, it deals with the issue of subjective human consciousness, right? There is nothing except subjective human consciousness. There is no objectivity at all, right? And that's how, this is how T.S. Eliot says that the world of modern world is, it is nothing except the subjective consciousness, which is stream of consciousness. And what that stream of consciousness technique in fact explore, stream of consciousness technique करता क्या है? देखिए, यह बताता है कि हमारा दिमाग में कोई स्टेबिलिटी नहीं है, हम नहीं जानते। देखिए, किसी का भी दिमाग स्थिर नहीं है, हमारे माइंड में तमाम प्रकार की उलझन आती रहती है। You see, that is the problem. Today we have yoga, we perform so many meditation, we practice this, but what the problem? The problem of the modern life is that our life is not fixed. There is no fixity in our life, both in terms of psychological, in terms of physical, in terms of materialistic. हमारा दिमाग एक स्थिर नहीं है, हम झंझावात में उलझे रहते हैं, right? That you find in Shakespeare, you find most of Shakespeare's plays. तो इसीलिए स्ट्रीम ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस टेक्निक आया, यह बात करता है कि जो हमारा ब्रेन है ना, हमारी मानसिक स्थिति है, यह बहुत संतुलित नहीं है, एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी हैव द टर्म लाइक स्ट्रीम ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस टेक्निक। तो इतना पहले समझने का प्रयास करिएगा दैट हाउ दीज राइटर्स दैट यू फाइंड दैट बेसिकली ये जो राइटर्स हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ फिक्शन पर्टिकुलर देखिएगा, तो खासतौर से आर्टिस्टिक जीनियस प्लस स्ट्रीम ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस टेक्निक, दीज टू टर्म को लाया। सबसे पहले आप देखेंगे दैट द राइटर इज हेनरी जेम्स। अब आते हैं जोसेफ कॉनरैड, देन यू हैव जोसेफ कॉनरैड, there is another writer Joseph Conrad. जोसेफ कॉनरैड ने कहा, जैसे कि मैल्कम ब्रैडबरी एक क्रिटिक है ऑफ मॉडर्निज्म, इज अ क्रिटिक ऑफ मॉडर्निस्ट। ही सेज दैट मॉडर्निज्म इज नथिंग but the questioning, everything is being questioned. This is what he says. He says that everything is being questioned, and this is what Joseph Conrad. So therefore, there is no omniscient narrative, omniscient narrative. ये ऐसा नहीं है। In fact, in the works of Joseph Conrad, the narrator himself is trying to know, वह स्वयं जानने का प्रयास करता है। Narrator doesn't know everything. Narrator also in a state of doubt. He doesn't know everything very categorically, like Victorian writer. This is 20th century reality. We don't know, we cannot trust, there is no trust at all in terms of writing, and this is what such types of technique is developed by Joseph Conrad in his fiction, like for example Heart of Darkness. This is a novella, very interesting book, you must read Heart of Darkness. Then you have Lord Jim, you have Nostromo, you have Nigger of the Narcissus, right? Lord Jim, Heart of Darkness, Nostromo, Nigger of the Narcissus. So if you read this book, basically of Joseph Conrad, who says that because of the colonial thinking, see that is interesting point. For the first time, what we call this colonial, later you will study post-colonial theory, that starts with Joseph Conrad. And as I told you that the PhD of Edward Said, the writer of the post-colonial text, it is basically because Joseph, see Edward Said's PhD was on Joseph Conrad. So if you read Joseph Conrad, you find that his pledge, his fiction, basically they deals with the colonial theme. They deals with the colonial theme, and this colonial theme is very important. That starts with Joseph Conrad. Later you have George Orwell. Then you have Rudyard Kipling, right? George Orwell, Rudyard Kipling, and later you find Salman Rushdie, right? Then you have Chinua Achebe, and Ngugi wa Thiong'o, so many writers. But it starts with Joseph Conrad. What Joseph Conrad says that according to him, the question of imperialism, this become very important. The making of empire, the building of empire. So for example, take the example of Indian context. What happened in India? You see, the British, when the British conquered India, completely they occupied India after the Treaty of Allahabad, following the Battle of Buxar and Battle of Plassey. They had they became the owner. They got the opportunity, full control over the revenue right of the three states, Odisha, and then you have Bengal and Bihar. But what they did, in fact, what the British did, they apparently they constructed most of the building, like Supreme Court, like High Court, like our university. They constructed most of the building, but in fact what they did, they looted us. उन्होंने हमारे यहाँ बिल्डिंग तो बनाया, be it मुगल also, जितने भी एम्पायर हमारे यहाँ फॉरेन के आए, what they did, for example, they in fact constructed most of the beautiful building, but the money was particularly used by Indian, right? The money was of the Indian, and that's what. But what happened? They looted us. This is the problem of colonial. कि इन लोगों ने हमको लूटा. कहने को तो हमारे यहाँ बिल्डिंग बनवाया, हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी बनवाया, हमारा सुप्रीम कोर्ट बनवाया. Most of the beautiful architectures or building was constructed by them, but in turn what happened? They looted us. And this is the basic question of Joseph Conrad in his novel like Lord Jim, or if you read Heart of Darkness, very fantastic novella, Heart of Darkness. You find that in Heart of Darkness, that where is darkness? The darkness is inside us. This is another question that, for example, if you read Heart of Darkness, it is novella, Heart of Darkness, very beautiful book, very good book, Heart of Darkness. So this Heart of Darkness, darkness is inside us. ये हमारे अंदर है. There is evil inside us. जो evil है, this is inside us. ये हमारे अंदर पाया जाता है. This evil is inside us, and this is what you find in Joseph Conrad. His fiction, his novel, that he says that, be it Lord Jim, that he developed certain theory that there is no omniscient narrator, rather narrator himself is questioning. Narrator doesn't know what is happening in the novel. For example, he is trying to, for example, the Marlowe is a character in Lord Jim and Heart of Darkness also, and only there is a horror that he listens, right? Exactly, Marlowe doesn't also know the exact place or location of the story. But what also is said that what is the reason behind this, that, and this is colonial tendency, that this colonialism that you find that it starts with Joseph Conrad for the first time. So what I want to say is that you don't find the fiction like Jane Austen, or you don't find the fiction like George Dickens or William Thackeray. Rather, to find the question like these writers, where you see that how they changed the entire structure of the novel, both in terms of technique and form. And the most important the most important writers are Henry James, who has written the fiction, the great novels like The Wings of Doe is another novel, Wings of Doe, Ambassador, Portrait of the Lady, and then you have that is another set of novelists. And then you have Henry James, who says, Joseph Conrad, who in fact proclaims the theory that there is colonial temperament plus there is no exact omniscient narrator, right? So these are two writers. Now there is another set of novelists which is prescribed in your syllabus, and this novelist is that they are Arnold Bennett, then John Galsworthy, and then you have H.G. Wells, and they had the theme of materialism, right? Like property, materialism, possession. So they don't talk about certain things, but they are still writing in the mode of Victorian temperament, Victorian society. But एडवर्डियन पीरियड में आप देखेंगे कि जैसा मैं आज केवल नॉवेल टच कर रहा हूं, in my next video I'll be taking poetry, that how poem is quite different from the modernistic tendency. तो इनको आप देखेंगे कि they are still writing in the old tendency of Victorian temperament. But if you read what we call the modernist writers like Joseph Conrad and Henry James, then you find a certain radical changes. And this radical changes that I discussed is the crux of modernism. That's how modernism begins. As Ezra Pound says that this is making it new. So I stop here. In my next video, I'll continue modernism, then I'll go Georgian poem, and then also I'll take up some modernist poem. Thank you. Hello.